All right, we're getting ready to go into our fourth question. Again, just wanted to remind everyone that is tuned in right now, there is a Part of the Disruption YouTube channel where all clips will be posted. It should be actually in the chat right now commenting, so go ahead and subscribe to that channel if you want to check out all of the segments that we've had, past and present, on this current program. They will be uploaded after the show. So that being said, the question that a lot of us on the production side have been waiting for. Andrew Tate, the self-proclaimed top G. Now, if you guys are not familiar on the panel, if you don't know who Andrew Tate is, he's kind of went viral and taken over TikTok and all types of shorts and reels. And he's currently been banned. He's banned from IG, TikTok, Twitter. He is somewhat disrespectful with some of the things he says based on your interpretation of it, because he, his self-proclaimed motivation is healing damaged men and giving them the confidence to kind of reform and reprogram themselves. With that said, some of his takes, again, borderline disrespectful. Some are just flat out disrespectful. Some of them do make sense. So, just like Andrew Tate was banned from social media, should you fire someone based on their presence online on their social media? We'll start with RJ Bates, since he won the last round.
So, as someone that doesn't do quite as controversial content as Andrew Tate, but sometimes controversial, I think I've earned the right to be able to do that because I'm the one that's building the brand for my business and the business that I created. If you are going to be an employee for my business, then there is a certain level of respect that you have to have towards the brand that I've built, and you're representing that, and you need to represent it the way that I want you to. So yes, I think if you're not going to live up to the expectations that are set on how you carry yourself on social media, you should absolutely be fired. And if you don't like that, then you could go create your own business and your own brand, just like Andrew Tate did, and live with the consequences of whatever that leads you to.
Okay. Steve Trang.
So I believe I lead an organization full of misfits that don't belong anywhere else. We're kind of like Toy Story 3, right? So like everyone can have their own character and they can do whatever they, more or less what they want, so long as within certain boundaries. So, if someone's being outright racist, sexist, saying derogatory things about demographics, 100% you're out, right? But Andrew Tate, his takes are controversial. I agree with a lot of what he says, right? But it hurts feelings, right? I would never fire anybody for saying anything that he's saying, right? Because he's not calling out demographics. He's just giving opinions on what he believes, right? He's speaking his truth. So,
okay, Leon, your thoughts?
I think there's two perspectives here. One is from the employee and one is from the employer. From the employee standpoint, we live in a country that gives us the freedom of speech. But in the same regard, there are consequences to that speech, right? There are consequences to the things that we say. So from an employee side, you have to understand there's going to be consequences to things that are controversial that you say, whether that's on a platform or social media or wherever. From the employer standpoint, this is where you have to be very clear upon onboarding employees, what you will and will not stand for in regards to representation of your company. And that way, there's no gray area in regards to how someone will be treated if they post something that's controversial in these categories. You will be terminated if you do these things. So there's two lessons, two different perspectives on it, but you just have to know there are going to be consequences from freedom of speech.
Okay. And Eric Brewer, your thoughts?
One, for the record, rumor has it Steve Trang has beat up more men and shared more women than Andrew Tate, for the record. Rumor has it.
Started right here, right now. That's the one the rumor started.
So if we're talking about badasses, my man takes karate or whatever, kung fu. So let's just get that out in the open. Here's the thing. I think we're really big in our organization, and I'm sure everybody here has an established, well-communicated set of standards for their people. For us, that's core values, and core values defined what's acceptable behavior and what's not. And the reality is that behavior today extends beyond the time that you spend at the office. So I don't care if you do anything on social media that's a better representation of who you are as an individual, as long as it aligns with our core values, right? So if what we do here is integrity-based, respect, having a positive belief and humility, if someone's out there doing something that isn't a good reflection of that, it just means that what I'm getting at the office is fake. It's not authentic, right? So I don't want you to feel forced to modify your behavior. I don't want you to feel forced to be an honest person when you're at the office if you're truly not. I think you can definitely term it. We have a social media policy. If you violate the core values inside or outside of the office in a visible manner, you're done.
Okay, the voting is open in the chat, and the floor is open.
See, we have a social media policy here at Titanium as well. It's very simple. If you want to be derogatory, you want to talk bad about somebody, if you want to be rude, you go to Carlos Reyes's page and you're rude to him. You're derogatory towards him. That's it. Just get it out, direct it towards Carlos, and we're good.
Any last minute points before we go to the voting?
I ended the conversation.
I mean, I think
That was a mic drop.
I think the key here, right, is that maybe just to extend the point, not necessarily the question here, is I think that free speech is important, right? I mean, there's consequences for free speech, and we all have to accept it as capitalists, right? There are consequences to it. But I value free speech. I strongly believe in it, and I think that if people, one of the biggest problems we have in this country is people can't handle free speech, right? They're what's the word I'm looking for? Sharp and soft, right? I think we have a bunch of people that are sharp and soft out there, and that's causing problems in this country. We can't have real conversations, how to fix real problems. Everyone's overly sensitive.
Yeah.
But I think there's a balance to that, right? Like you have freedom of speech, but as an employer, we have freedom of decision as to whether or not that speech aligns with what we're doing. Like 100%. Even on this show, right? Like,
100%. I wasn't talking about you. I'm saying in general, like the fact that he got canceled, like there are people cheering it. There are people upset about it. I think the people cheering it should all be thrown in prison. I don't know. Something bad happened to them. Cancel their social media accounts.
I mean, there's something to what you're saying, dude. The president of the United States got blocked from Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, look,
like,
let me call my president right now, right?
Steve taking
Steve,
the mic
you gotta
drop.
be careful doing that. Remember, I almost got canceled for even making one Joe Biden joke, okay?
I was quoting him directly.
Verbatim.
Even the captions were accurate. Turn on the captions and spell it out perfectly.
End of quote.
We do have, it's a very close vote right now, so we will allow the question to kind of be expanded a little bit, because the thing about it is he was banned from the social media platform. So does that kind of change your guys' answers or opinion? I know it seemed like we're all for freedom of speech, but if that has a reflection on your social media accounts where you do your business, you conduct your business, does that kind of change your opinion if potentially you might get canceled from social media, not even canceled, deleted? And, does that kind of shift your opinion? I'd be curious to hear from you guys.
I think generally the Tate.
Well, no different than.
I don't think Tate got banned because of his opinions. I think he got banned because of technically he violated policy. He had a bunch of different accounts that looked like him that weren't really him. I mean, it was a genius business model. The guy made at least a little bit of money in a year selling people a $50
I don't think that's
program.
accurate, Eric. That's what he did on TikTok. That's not why he got canceled. He got canceled on Facebook and Instagram for violating the terms of policy as far as his opinion.
But that goes back to what Eric was talking about earlier. It doesn't fit the policies of that company that is the platform. So therefore, he's getting fired from that platform because he did not adhere to policy. It's the same concept of firing an employee for.
It's definitely
things
a
that
gray
are not
area.
aligned.
It's definitely a gray area, right? There was an issue with someone on a podcast on Spotify where they wanted them to ban them, right? And Spotify basically said, hey, we're a platform. We don't make decisions about content. We're simply a place for people to broadcast their message no matter what it is. So it's a gray area. But I think the one thing that we've done, if we've done anything right, is we just establish the expectations when the people come into the organization so that there's no confusion. And if that's a problem for them, then we've just clearly set the expectation up front. They're not going to be surprised because we've done it. We've had to actually terminate someone for something they did on social media. And it wasn't a surprise because it was clearly stated up front. They were like, darn it, I apologize. I messed up, but I understand.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, all of these platforms have the ability to say whether that is allowed or not. Look at Netflix. We were using other examples. Netflix, they wanted the people behind everything wanted Dave Chappelle to get canceled and taken off Netflix. Netflix says, no, we're going to back. So their particular policy and how they felt on that particular issue, they were good with it. These other platforms weren't. And I think that's up to them. And just like what Eric said, it was up to him to make that decision on terminating an employee because it was their policy.
We encourage our people. It's borderline a requirement to be on social media. Again, I think RJ's seen it right. Like there's a development or a benefit to having a brand that goes beyond whether you do any education or anything like that. RJ, the majority of his content is he just simply records what he does on a daily basis. And whether you recognize it or not, a lot of sellers will connect with that and say, hey, it's just a normal guy with really, really thick beard hair and a sweet piece of titanium. Like that's the kind of guy I want to sell my house to. Right? So I think that there's a balance, right? Because if you tell people you can't do social media, you're going to negatively impact the exposure you can get. Be yourself, but also make sure that what you do aligns with our values. And just clearly state those expectations up front, and you shouldn't have any problems.
Okay. We do have a couple comments that like to read out. We had one from Tech Out Adam. He said, people just can't handle honest people. That's all it was. Interesting. Got a couple comments for Steve. They liked your thoughts, your opinions. Big Z Chrono said, free the top G. Tech Out Adam also said, there's also consequences for not exercising freedom of speech. So thank you guys for, And then actually there was one last one. Gary Yates, he said, once you want to control someone on their own time for an opinion, you have become a dictator. Not talking about racism or anything like that. He says he's just talking about opinions. So, okay.
The great thing about this country, Weasel, is that individual can now go start their own platform to get their message out. That's the greatest thing about this country. Now you have a business opportunity. If you get canceled over here and people want to hear what you have to say, go start a business to get that message out on a different platform.
That's a great point. When you get fired, you're not unemployed, you're self-employed. It's a positive twist on a bad situation. Like, hey, great news is you're fired and you're not unemployed, you're now self-employed.
So we should remove the term firing and just say, hey, I'm promoting you to self-employment.
I've made you an entrepreneur.
Everyone where I grew up was self-employed.
There we go. All right, the voting is closed out. It looks like Steve Trang took that one, so another point for Steve.